This is what I love. The lore, the action, perfectly balanced. Hey everyone, Templar74 here with another Yu-Gi-Oh video, and today's Yu-Gi-Oh video is going to be my review of the latest episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's episode 38, Maximum Unearthed. And I gotta be honest with you guys, like I said in the intro, this episode is what I love with Yu-Gi-Oh! One thing that Yu-Gi-Oh! Always does right is lore. Lore-based stories and just building out stories. Granted, Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's has been one of those awkward shows where you really have to sit there and look at it long term, because some of these episodes are just plain weird and they'll throw you off if you're expecting a normal average Yu-Gi-Oh! Where the story does build over time, but it does it at a much quicker pace. Yu-Gi-Oh! 7's is different than that. It definitely is. Some of these episodes, I'll be the first to admit, completely lose me, but you gotta stick with it and you gotta watch it long term, and this episode is a perfect example of it. This episode was very lore heavy, very plot heavy. We got some questions answered and the action to boot. This was a pretty great episode, not gonna lie, but I'm rambling and we'll talk about all this soon enough. So at risk of further rambling though, let's move on to the actual episode. So the episode begins with Yuga and company, and they finally arrived at the Machine Cavalry Club's secret. They've arrived in this old mine, and in this old mine are a bunch of prototype duel discs. And we learn through the episode that the ID cards in these prototype duel discs is how Asuna managed to create her maximum cards. The gang doesn't know this yet, and as they're going around, they're discovering, they see Asuna and company show up, and they're basically like, well, now you know the secret. And we learned that the maximum cards were created from these ID cards by the Machine Cavalry Club, and they had to painstakingly go through every single duel disc to pick out ID cards because so much time had passed, a lot of these ID cards were completely unusable. So this was a very time sensitive but time consuming aspect here, where the Machine Cavalry Club spent a very long time going through these duel discs to find ID cards that would work for maximum cards. And because of this, we learn that Asuna's maximum cards and Neil's maximum cards are the only ones left in existence. And that's because using ID cards to convert into maximum cards, only a very small handful of ID cards can do it. And after Yuga defeated Neil in his Yug Dragon, the 3 ID cards from Roman, Gakuto, and Rook turned back to normal. And that's why we never saw Magnum Overroad again, which makes a lot of sense now, actually, because the maximum is unstable, only certain ID cards can do it, and Neil is really the only one, other than Asuna, that has permanent maximum cards. And yeah, Yug Dragon and Asuna's Excavator maximum monsters are the only ones left in existence at this point. And this really goes into Maximum, because Maximum is one of those things, and they've reiterated it through this series, that it's not something that every duelist can pull off. And I love that. It makes it exclusive, it makes it rare, it makes it something to keep an eye on these characters for. And we also learn Asuna goes ahead, she challenges Yuga to a duel, but we also learn that she anticipated something that Yuga was going to do. And we're not quite sure what Yuga's going to do to level the playing field here a little bit, but Asuna knows what it is. So she agrees to the duel on these terms. Yuga wins, and it's the original terms from their first duel. However, if Yuga loses, rush duels are banned in the school systems throughout Goha City. Pretty simple but high stakes terms here. So the duel gets underway, and Asuna wastes no time in bringing out her maximum monster. And Yuga holds off her maximum using pretty much the same combo that he used against Neil with Trick Guard. And that buys him a turn. And it's at this point that Asuna reveals what she knows about Yuga leveling the playing field. She said that Yuga sent his drone to Neil, which he did do, to get this information. And while Kaizo was there at Neil, Kaizo asked to borrow Yug Dragon. Neil's maximum cards. And we learn through a flashback here, because we keep going back and forth between Neil and the duel here, because Neil keeps filling in some of the backstory about Maximum. We learned that when Yuga programmed rush dueling, it overloaded Goha's systems, including these prototype duel discs, which brought some of them back online. The same happened when Maximum was created by Neil. So yeah, Neil also hands over Yuga Dragon. And Kaizo actually has Neil's Maximum cards, but Yuga didn't put them in his deck. Because Yuga's like, I kind of anticipated you would know that. And he's like, and I strongly considered doing it for a little bit. But Yuga decided to take his chances on an even smaller bet. And we learn what that smaller bet is, because instead of using the already-to-go Maximum cards that have been proven within Yuga Dragon, which, by the way, Neil also reveals were created by the Tops of Hexagon, and Yuga just put in 3 ID cards that he thought were going to work from these dual discs, these prototype dual discs, and as he draws them, they turn once again into Maximum Overload. And now Yuga is able to maximum summon his own Maximum monster. Maximum Overload is back from the dead here, and he didn't have to use his friend's ID cards this time. This time they're just prototype dual disc ID cards, and it worked. Yuga brought out his Maximum monster. And now it's Magnum Overload versus Asuna's Excavator Maximum monster, and these two square off. Maximum Overload uses its effects to raise its attack points almost to 6,000. It's like 5,800 at this point. And these two are squaring off, and that's where the episode cuts off. It ends on a cliffhanger. We don't know if Maximum Overload is going to survive the battle or not, but that is where the episode leaves off, on a friggin' cliffhanger. And like I said, that's pretty much the episode. And yeah, I loved this episode. I'm not going to lie. Like I said, Yu-Gi-Oh! The one thing it does right is lore. And sometimes, some series, you have to be invested through the entire series to see this and appreciate this work. I think Sevens is definitely going to fall into that category, because like I said, Sevens is kind of all over the place. But one thing Yu-Gi-Oh! Does right is lore, and if you stick with it long enough, you really admire the lore. Even my least favorite series, like Zexal and Arc 5, had lore in it, and I really did enjoy the lore, even though some of the duels, some of the characters, and even the endings were nothing to write home about. So yeah, the lore is always great, and this episode was full of it. Some questions got answered that we've had ever since the final battle between Neil and Yuga, like where did Maximum Overload go? Why hadn't Yuga used it again? Just where did Yuga Dragon come from? It's just one of these episodes that just answers questions, and it still leaves you on a cliffhanger. It was action-packed, and I loved it. Overall, I give this episode a 9 out of 10. I really did enjoy this episode. But again, those are just my thoughts, and as always, I want to hear yours. So, in the comments section down below, let me know what your guys' thoughts were about this week's episode. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was just there? What are your thoughts? Just let me know in the comments section down below, because as always, I enjoy hearing from you. Alright everyone, as always, Templar74 signing off. Have a great day everybody, and I'll talk to you all next time. Goodbye everybody. Hey everyone, Templar74 here. Did you enjoy the video? Do you want to help support me in making more content like this and see your name here at the end of every video? Then consider supporting me on Patreon. Any help is greatly appreciated and will help ensure continuation and increase the quality of production of the videos that I'm able to make for all of you. Link down below. Again, thank you so much for your support and for liking and subscribing. You all are amazing. And as always everyone, Templar74 signing off. Have a great day everybody, and I'll talk to you all next time. Goodbye everybody.